Vault 75 is located underneath Malden Middle School. The experiment was the refinement of human genetics. They would research the improvement of the human genome using methods such as selective breeding, genetic modification, and hormonal treatments. The vault was intended to last many generations and would only close when directed by Vault-Tec. As part of the directive, in order to create new generations of children, human embryos were experimented on and cultivated. Although the overseer is not named, it is known the overseer is a female with military experience. The vault was advertised to the public as a safe place for children in the school to take cover in the event of a nuclear war. To encourage a high number of residents, they were offered a subsidised admittance to the vault. When the bombs dropped, every designated family with a student attending the school, along with teachers, made it to the vault in time. Upon entering the vault, the children were separated from the adults and escorted to the atrium, under the guise that they were on orientation, while the adults were taken to a holding area. They were then executed. To make this even more evil, any families that refused to be separated would have the children executed too, as we see on this terminal. The children of the vault were subjected to torturous experiments involving physical pain to improve pain threshold and forced to run on treadmills until their heart rates reached over 200 beats per minute or until they passed out, as well as combat training in the form of a post-apocalyptic shooting range that was a simulation of a post-apocalyptic urban environment. They were also raised learning about the horrors of Up-Top Land, a nickname for the wasteland, using stories like this one we find on a classroom terminal. There once was a little girl named Sue and a little boy named Roy. Sue and Roy grew up in a very special place called Vault 75. They learned and trained and played there. How they trained! Sue and Roy were both growing up big and strong when one day Sue and Roy were asked to visit the overseer. "What's wrong, overseer?" asked Sue. "Why are you crying, overseer?" asked Roy. "It's just awful," cried the overseer, wiping a tear from her eye. "Have you children ever heard of Up-Top Land?" Sue and Roy blinked and shook their heads. "What's that, overseer?" they asked. "Oh, it's a terrible place," began the overseer, and she told the children about Up-Top Land. She told them about the people living there and how they weren't safe or strong like the children of Vault 75. Monsters attacked them and evil bandits stole their food, and it was no place for little children to grow up. "Those poor people!" exclaimed Sue. "Why does nobody help them?" wondered Roy. "That's just it, children," said the overseer. "They need somebody big and strong to protect them." "Who will help them?" Sue and Roy asked. "One day, children, you will," said the overseer. "That's why you must do your best at classes and training every day, so you can grow up big and strong and go make Up-Top Land a happy and safe place for the poor people who live there." Sue and Roy smiled at that and ran off to their classes, eager to help. As we can see, the children were being told that they were being trained to one day be strong enough to go into the wasteland and help the suffering people up top. Once they graduated at age 18, those who scored high enough both physically and on intelligence were harvested for their good genes. This would be done by telling them that they needed to be vaccinated, but instead they would be sedated and then harvested. Based on terminal entries, it seems they were also killed, although we do not know this. We do, however, know that the harvesting process involved taking genetic material, but other than that, not much else. Those who did not score very high physically, but did score high on intelligence and obedience, could be recruited to the science team at the overseer's discretion. The others who didn't score high enough were deemed to be insufficient to the vault standards and were executed when they turned 18. After a graduation ceremony, their bodies were incinerated. Through terminals, we learned that students were planning a rebellion to overthrow the Vault-Tec staff and escape the vault. It was most likely sparked when a scientist lost some notes with files, which got into the vents and ended up being found by one of the children, who then shared the information exposing Vault-Tec's sick experiment with the others. This was seen by a scientist who was a former resident who graduated to staff, but he chose not to tell the other scientists or staff about what he saw. We can see on the terminals that Rohit and James are plotting to escape via messages left on this terminal. In these messages, we can see they were planning to smuggle bullets out of the firing range, 1 or 2 bullets at a time, and also seemingly making an explosive, as they say they need a fuse and plenty of gunpowder. They also seem to be recruiting others to their cause. We can assume the takeover was successful as we find numerous skeletons of Vault-Tec scientists positioned as if they were killed. It looks like the kids made it out, and we can only hope they managed to make a life for themselves better than the suffering they endured in the vault. At the very least, they hopefully lived to be older than 18, but in the wasteland, who knows? Hopefully the vault's experiments gave them enough genetic enhancements to help them survive, as we can see on terminals the improvements physically, intellectually and in pain threshold in the residents of the vault. As for the scientists, I obviously have no sympathy for them, as they got what they deserved for conducting their sick eugenics experiments. But I do hope that Washington, the scientists who helped the kids, made it out with them and didn't die in the violence. Although I think that might be wishful thinking. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with when I release my next video. I release one Fall Outlaw video a week, and shorts and occasional other videos in between. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.